was on vacation this August. I was down in North Carolina and Tennessee with a friend of mine. And my friend his name is Father David. Father David is really into a TV show called Forged in Fire, which is basically blacksmiths making swords of different kinds of swords and things. And it's a competition to see who can do it the best. And so we had booked through Airbnb to stay at a particular place. And one of the things that they sent us as something to do in the area was working with a blacksmith to make a knife out of a railroad spike. And when I read it, I thought, oh, yeah, Dave would really be into this. So I texted it to him and said, is this something you might want to do? And he responded almost back immediately, yeah, that'd be great. So we ended up, it took a little bit, there were different reasons that we weren't able to sign up for it right away, but eventually we did. I have to admit, the only reason I was considered doing this was because I knew he would like it. I thought it'd be interesting, but it would not be something I would do sort of if I was doing something by myself. So we ended up going, and we were given the railroad spike to begin using, and it's actually pretty fascinating as we were doing it. You know, he had the forge that we had to stick the spike into so that it would get really hot, and then you take it out and with tongs, because obviously you can't touch it because it's, well, really, really hot. Then you take a hammer and you just start banging at it. And it was really kind of cathartic in its own way. We were there for a few hours as we did this, as we had to shape it. You had to make it thinner and longer, and then start shaping it sort of into the form of the knife blade, and eventually we used a machine to sort of make it sharper and sort of clean it up a little bit. And so this is what I ended up making. A knife out of a railroad spike. As I kind of think about what it is that I encountered that day, what I find most fascinating was that, again, it wasn't something I really would have been interested in doing on my own, and I really did it for David. But what I came to realize was how much fun I really had, and it was, in many ways, one of the highlights of the trip for me. I just got so much out of doing it. I learned a lot about blacksmithing and about working with metal in that way that I knew nothing about. And the fascinating thing is, many times that's the way ministry really can be. And I hear this from people all the time. You know, when they bring communion to the homebound, or they start working with kids either in youth ministry or in faith formation, whatever it might be. You know, being a lector or an extraordinary minister at Mass. The experiences of doing these things, of serving other people, where your primary motivation, which is the right motivation of doing it for the good of others, it brings something back into our own lives. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened to me, that I've walked out of a communion call or meeting with a family in either a really great situation or a really distressed situation, where I recognized how much I received by being willing to just be there for those people. And that's really, in many ways, when we think about the cross. Why did Jesus do the cross? He did it because we needed him to, because of the good it would do for us. And yet through the cross came his resurrection. And that's what happens so much in our lives when we are willing to give of ourselves, when we choose not to put ourselves first, but we do what we need to do because it's what the other person needs, it can have such a profound impact in our lives. In a real sense, the more we take on the cross, the more we die to ourselves, and the more that we seek the good of others like Jesus does on the cross, the more the resurrection becomes a real possibility in our life, the more we come alive. Because that's really what it is. The more you die to yourself, and the more you're willing to give your life to others, that's where you really start to live. That's where you really start to take on life for what it's supposed to mean. The more we embrace the cross, the more we experience the resurrection. I didn't go to make this knife for myself, and yet I got as much out of it as my friend Dave did. What was true of that day is really true of life in general. The more we do for others, simply to do for others, the more we will always get out of life. Again, the more we're willing to die to ourselves for the good of others, the more we experience the truth and the reality of the resurrection in our lives. God bless.